Sometimes it's not really a good idea to make a movie based on a manga, or anime, or game, or whatever. Because the result, if it's done wrong, it can be very devastating, for different reasons. With this in mind, let's take a look at Me and 23 Slaves. Based on the manga I never read, the story is around a young man called Oda Yuga, played by Kanata Hongo, that finds out about a special device called SCM, which can be used to turn other players into slaves by defeating them in a game, whichever that game may be. Together with his sister called Arakawa Eiya, played by Akimoto Sayaka, they play the survival game to free all turned slaves in their town. But it takes an unwelcome turn for Eiya when Yuga dives more and more into the darkness of the game. I will start with this. The idea is actually a very good one. Playing games for survival, but when you lose the game you turn into the slave of the winner? That could actually work well. Heck, the concept somehow reminded me of Kaiji. The more often the game is played, the crazier the player gets because of the SCM device, and that idea isn't new at all. But then again, this could still work well with a unique kind of spin to it. Yet for some reason they rushed through the whole story to the point where it doesn't make any impact at all. With some characters that don't even make sense to be there in the first place, like the one woman towards the end of the movie on Team Yuga. And even the characters that do make sense to be there, they are not fleshed out enough for anybody to really care for them. Not even the main bad side seemed important as an enemy. It just seemed like some random people that everybody meets on the street daily. Also, when it comes to the games, it actually had a good start. It seems to go the psychological route, something along the lines of Kaiji. That would be great. I loved Kaiji because of that. But after the first game, the rest of the games were basically dumbed down to something people might play when they are drunk or at a party. Even the final game, it had the Kaiji vibe again, but it was just Othello, which can be an interesting game by itself, but the showdown didn't use any real psychological battle, and you don't see any of the moves in the game. Those that even don't know how to play Othello, they won't get it, because the movie doesn't do any attempt to explain the rules. The final game seemed something like father and son were just playing it as a routine and not because it's good side versus bad side. There is even one young woman Yuga wants to save, and that is the reason why he is even participating. But that falls flat quickly a few scenes later, as if the previous scene never happened. The movie could be cut around 30 minutes short or even more, and you would still fully understand what's about. Yet what ultimately almost destroys the movie is the overall feel. Let's take Kaiji as an example. When you watch the movie, you immediately know that it's supposed to be based on something because it somehow feels a bit goofy. But Kaiji still takes itself seriously and is well thought out for you to ultimately care for it. In the case of Me and 23 Slaves, it's overall the contrary. You immediately see that it's supposed to be based on something, in this case the manga. But it is way too goofy to be taken seriously with the overall environment, especially towards the beginning. It's not well thought out, and the music will possibly make you laugh your ass off because of how unfitting it is most of the time. Well, the opening song, yeah, the movie has an opening song almost like you see in anime, is actually good, but the rest? Nah, it isn't. The thing is, it would be okay if the movie didn't want to be taken seriously, but it does. That's why I think the movie ultimately doesn't work. An actual fear of the game of death, like they mention here, is not given at almost any point. At least the main actors played their role decent enough and the conclusion was done fairly okay, but outside of that, sadly, I don't really have much praise for it. And that is actually sad, because I like the overall idea with the SCM devices and playing the games for survival a lot. But it didn't deliver, and the result is a rather unfinished movie that could be way more than it did.